You're a guy in your 20s who's currently lost in this process of trying to get in shape. You know, summer's coming up, as you can imagine, you want to look the best. You don't know where to start, you don't know where to go, you don't know how to navigate through this process to basically have a successful dieting phase. So I'm going to give you 5 valuable lessons to make sure you're fully aware how to approach your dieting phase and you actually know what you're in for. Because most of the time we go in it blind like Stevie Wonder and we wonder why we have no success. Now I'm sure we can all agree when it comes to our fat loss phases, we all make the same mistake. Chuck in the kitchen sink at it. More cardio, less food, basically everything in order to attempt losing weight. And don't get me wrong, some people do have some success, but most of the time, people just can't handle it and you end up, you know, throwing the towel in. That's not dieting, and I'm afraid most people think that is dieting, but it's not. It goes way deeper than that. The most successful dieting phases that I've had with current clients and past clients is definitely being able to prime the body, meaning getting the body to a position where it can handle stress. So when the body is encountering stress, because let's be real, dieting, we're making the body uncomfortable, taking it through phases where it's going to make it feel uncomfortable for a long period of time. Therefore, this is going to drive up the lights of stress. So you want the body in a state where it's able to constantly adapt to these new changes. And if you can drive the body to adaptations because it can handle stress, you're going to continue to get a response time and time again. Now I've coached a good chunk of guys in my time, and there's a trend I tend to see when it comes to fat loss phases. Those who have the most success are normally those who basically prime the body. So the central nervous system, the CNS, tends to handle stress a lot better, and it doesn't do the opposite, because when it does the opposite, 9 times out of 10, the body doesn't want to respond. It doesn't want to shift, and this can cause problems, right? Because you're not getting a response, you're doing the work, and over time, you're getting pushed back. And this is because the body's not primed to handle stress. Lesson 1, mapping out your dieting phase. I cannot stress this enough. I want to make sure you have your end goal, how to get there, how long it's going to take, and so on. You need a full roadmap. Without this, there's zero structure, meaning you're lacking precision. Because if you don't know what your target is and how to get there, you're basically doing it blind, brother. And it never ends well. So now I've got your goal weight. Your goal weight is 10 kg you want to lose. Now we need to understand how long is this going to take us. Because roughly you're going to want to understand how long you'll be dieting for, how long it's going to take, and how we're going to get there. So you've got your goal weight, you'll do 10 kg divided by, and this is where we work out your average. How much do you want to lose on average per week? Do you want to get aggressive? Do you want it more moderate? Completely depends on you, personality, you know, what you can tolerate basically. So when we look at the rate of loss, you want to be doing anywhere between moderate, is probably 0.5 to 7.5%, or you can get a bit more aggressive, which is 1% to 1.25%. And again, this depends on your body fat, your current body comp, and everything else what goes with it. But roughly, this is a guideline. So say on average you want to lose 10 kg and you want to do it on a moderate rate, which is 0.75%. You do that, this will average around 13 weeks it will take you. Now you know how long it's going to take. You do want to add a bit of buffer to this, only because life is life, things get in the way, and this may stall the process, or you may have some setbacks. So adding a bit of buffer, maybe two to 3 weeks, is more than enough, right? So you've got now your guideline, what to work towards. And then this is your roadmap, how you're going to get there. You know, how long you're going to spend in this dieting phase for. Because I think if you're doing it without any timeline or knowing where you are, me personally, you could just diet and fucking diet. Lesson 2, health before anything. A lot of guys make the mistake of trying to drive adaptations when the body is already stressed. And for the body to drive adaptations, the body needs to be in a rest and digest state, being pushed into parasympathetic state. Now, the only way we can do this is understanding health on a deeper level. It's common sense, guys. Like, if you're trying to get a plane to fly or a fucking helicopter, you know, it's going to require fuel. If you've not got fuel, you know, is it going to fly? Absolutely not. And this kind of the same approach what goes with a dieting phase. Blood pressure, now this is something most people will overlook. Why? Because they're just ignorant to it, they don't care. Probably takes too long, but they're just lazy bastards. But they need to remember that doing the likes of these things is for their own interest. You get to see how the body's coping, what it's currently at, you know, and how you can rectify it if needs be. As they say, blood pressure, it is a silent killer. So it's very important you track these things. You don't have to do it every day, but every week, bi-weekly, is more than enough to see how your body's coping. So when it comes to ranges, I want to be seeing systolic anywhere between 115 to 120 and diastolic 60 to 70s. I think once you start pushing to like 80s, this is red flags. It's clear signs again, the body's under stress. Now when it comes to HRV, trends tend, especially the numbers, they tend to be person dependent. I never see numbers of like one shoe fits all. I just think it's very important that when you are taking the likes of these trends and looking out for where your numbers are, you've got to jot these things down as well, because there'll be times in this process where you may feel a bit cooked and your HRV will give you a number. Now, that might be a number where you start to feel your limits and you feel fucked for it, and that's completely fine. But I'm not going to say, oh, it's completely that number like your blood pressure, whereas HRV tends to be person dependent. But look out for trends. If you feel shit, write it down, look at your numbers. This gives you a better idea where you're currently at. If you feel amazing, where energy's high and everything else, look at your number, because that will tell you where you feel most optimal. Resting heart rate is also a great way to see how your body is coping. Now, when we look at resting heart rate, there's a few ways to doing this, but if you look at the likes of your BPM, sometimes on the Garmin, it's like every 4 hours. You could probably get more recently, but for us, it's just understanding where your BPM is. What's the averaging? So if you're doing more than like say 65s onwards to say 80s, mate, this is clear signs your body's under stress. It's been pushed into a sympathetic state. And this is no good, because when your body's pushed into this, it means cortisol's gonna be elevated, the body's under stress, recovery is gonna be impaired, fatigue's gonna be high, and so on. And it also shows that your cardiovascular health isn't exactly great. So make sure you track these things. Again, and no, we may see these numbers and bug out, but it's about seeing these numbers and using it as an opportunity to rectify them, to say, right, I'm probably not functioning as best, now let's sort it out. That's how we want to be doing it. And before you even think about trying to attempt an aggressive fat loss phase, I think it's very important that you prime the body from the inside out. Basically, nourishing the body, giving the body what it needs and what it's required day to day. Because if you prevent to do that, giving it the minerals, giving it the vitamins, giving it the raw materials, over a period of time, the body will start to cascade. Inflammation will rise and the body's having to compensate because of this. And then this is going to throw the body into a state of stress. And again, when the body's stressed, the body just doesn't want to drop fat. The body doesn't want to respond. So it's important you give the body what it needs, because this will give you the tools to handle stress further down the line. Everyone should be doing this anyway, but it's a perfect opportunity for us to get healthy, meaning we can use it to our advantage. Selecting foods what give us a better return on investment. This should just be the norm. But I think when we're in a gaining phase, yes, we have a lot more flexibility. Therefore, the foods we select probably don't offer the same valuable nutrients. But one food everyone should be having all year round, and that is seafood, because it contains DHA. Now, DHA is built in the cell membranes. DHA is highest in the eyes and the brain, which is basically for the central nervous system. So the more DHA you consume, the more calm the central nervous system is going to be throughout this process. So it's very important you consume this, guys. Lesson 3, it's going to take a lot longer than you think, believe it or not. I think some guys, and I do blame Instagram for this, they'll see these transformations and there's no context. And most of the time, it's easy to fall into the trap thinking a dieting phase can be wrapped up in 6 weeks, but if you don't know about that guy's experience in this process or anything, you're led to believe you can achieve the same. And I'm not knocking you for that, but you need to give a lot more respect to this process, because it is humbling and it takes time. It takes a lot of consistency. So I don't want to say set your expectations too high, like you can do that, but just be prepared to be in a dieting phase longer than you think, because it does take some doing, especially if you're a guy who's had a lot of fat on the frame for fucking years. You're not going to pull it off in a few weeks. It's going to take time, but with the right coach, he'll be able to navigate you through this process to diet for a decent period of time, refresh the rig, put you into diet breaks, maintenance and so on, to ensure the momentum's still building, but you're not just dieting as a whole. So the message I'm trying to get here is take your time with it, but just don't set your expectations too high, because you are going to be dieting longer than you think. Lesson 4, doing more. What I mean by this is, guys just think if to do more response, more outcome. That is not the case at all. You want to be doing more with the things will actually fucking work. Don't just do more for the sake of it. That doesn't make any sense, because most of the time, without realizing that, doing more is not what you're after the response. And sometimes doing the opposite is what gives you the response. It's about knowing when to push for more, when to actually hold off. And I think that's the most important part. Take from a guy who was doing 45 minutes cardio. I was doing 30 minutes post-workout. I was also training. I was doing 20K steps a day. And on top of that, I was doing the likes of ground working, doing some heavy labor. And I was still not getting the response I wanted. Why? Because I pushed my body more than what it could handle. And as a result, my body just fucking went to shit. So it's important you know when to push and when to pull, but doing more isn't the fucking answer. It's about knowing when to do more. And right now, in most people's situation, more is not the answer. So know what your body can handle, what its capacity is, and build up to that slowly. Just don't go out the gate straight away. There's just no need for it. It's about finding your sweet spot. The current food you're on, what can you get away with still being in a deficit? And also, what is your output to still be in a deficit? That is literally it. Get the most from that. Keep going until you basically hit a brick wall. Because what you're trying to do is, you're trying to get the most from the least. If you can get the most from the least, this then preserves the likes of sometimes your health, obviously performance, energy levels, your recovery. You're basically preserving all of that happening. And I think that's very important in this process. So it allows you to still go through the ranks, still attack with full adherence and attitude, because when we go into a dieting phase, we know that you are going to feel like shit at some point. That's just reality, gents. But if we can prevent that, this is why I'm saying, like, get the most from the least. Lesson 5, having zero exit strategy. This is what I hate to see. Guys will literally do the hard work. They would diet down, drop the body fat, basically put themselves in a position where they can potentially gain and improve their physique overall, gain muscle. And yet they just go back to old ways. They think the hard work is done. And it's not. You're literally just getting started. The dieting phase, see that as like your slingshot. You know, you're pulling it back. That's you getting sensitive. So when you actually go into your gaining phase, you are primed in a position to potentially add new muscle. It's never guaranteed, but it gives you a better chance of doing so. See your body like a sponge. You know, you spent a lot of time getting the body fat down. And as you've been getting the body fat down, the body's become more insulin sensitive. So if that person then ascends calories too soon, going back to old ways, eating whatever the fuck they want, the chances of them actually accumulating muscle is going to be far less, because you're driving water up too quick. You know, it's not only just going to put stress on your kidneys, but also you're just going to turn into a water buffalo. And this is why you see people look even worse after a coach, because they've not allowed the coach to reverse diet them, to get them in a position to obviously stay lean all year round. And that's where the magic is, guys. It's how you keep the fat off, and you go into a gaining phase pretty primed and lean throughout. So please, guys, just remember, the dieting phase isn't when the work is done. It's when it's just getting started. Do not make the mistake of, you know, doing the hard work to then just lose it all. So please nail your reverse diet. You nail your reverse diet, that will literally set you up for success, staying pretty much lean throughout. And who the fuck doesn't want that? If you're someone who's wanting a bit more guidance and direction, how to navigate through this process, I've put together a step-by-step guide. This is the framework I literally use on my guys to get in great shape. You know, when to diet, how long for, what health metrics to look out for, you know, how long to reverse diet for, how long to stay in maintenance after a gaining phase, you know, in depth. So you follow that to a T, I genuinely believe you'll make progress. But yeah, catch you on the next one, gents.